What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here. Delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. I am a #1 best-selling comic creator and an award-winning comic creator. So if you like my thoughts on comics and what I do here and want to support the channel, the best way to do so would be to support the books, support my Patreon. All those links are in the description below so you can check things out for yourself. Thank you very much, everybody who does so. All right, this is Valerian, the Complete Collection, Volume 4 from Cinebook. Now, Valerian is one of the most famous Euro comics out there, and each one of these contains 3 or 4 of the Valerian album stories through here. This one happens to contain two two-parters, which were done in the early 80s from like 1980 to 1986, and it's just awesome stuff. If you've not read Valerian before, definitely start with Volume 1 and go on ahead. Now, they are pretty self-contained. You don't have to start with #1, but I think it does help. Especially in here, they do start to have some throwback references to other stories, just with a couple creatures that show up and things like that. It doesn't matter, but it does help, I think, to recall that sort of stuff. You get some nice interviews with what's going on and what they think about things. Some history at the beginning. And then what happened at some point here is the artist actually went off on his own. They're a pairing, Kristen and Mézières, and I believe this is just Mézières who went off on his own and did his own short story in space about like some space marines going out and doing some things. This was very fun to read. I'm glad they included this in here. Really cool. He did this for a bit apparently, and then decided it was too much like Valerian, so why bother doing something else? But good stuff. And a nice summary at the beginning, and then you get into this storyline. Now, this one's interesting. So we've got Laureline off in space while Valerian's back in history trying to figure out like what's going on back there. There's weird creatures appearing everywhere, and he has to kind of just destroy them as he sees them. He's got a weird handler he's working with. Very bizarre situation, while he has like telepathic links with Laureline and goes off and watches her kind of try to figure out the mystery of what's going on in space. And so it turns out these apparitions are coming from somewhere in space for a reason, and we learn about that. And then there's, of course, a big epic conclusion, which is actually in the second story, because the first one kind of ends in a cliffhanger. Now, this is interesting. Of course, the art's wonderful. This is my favorite art in the whole world. I think it's just great. I just want all comics to look like this in general. I want all comics to have this kind of level of sci-fi where it's just like way out there in general. But this is actually, these stories I dislike compared to volumes 1 through 3. You get some he's a cool creature that Valerian interacts with. Which is like this weird, like telepathic whale-ish creature who helps them track down some of this stuff at some point. But neat stuff. We learn that there's like this world that's kind of really been destroyed, and like these people got abused, and they have like this like religious thing set up. It's difficult to explain. That's what it comes down to. But what I didn't like about this story in particular is that Valerian cheats on Laureline and goes back and just like he hooks up with some floozy who's trying to distract him in the past, and she knows about it because she's telepathically linked with him. And her reaction to it, she's just like, she makes fun of him for it, basically, like he's an idiot, and really doesn't go beyond that. But that felt bad to me. I really didn't like the character, the hero of Valerian, acting like that, personally. I wouldn't have made that decision. I just thought it was kind of a tacky, ugly thing. And it made me upset on Laureline's behalf. Now, of course, that's part of the emotional story arc, I guess. It just didn't make me feel good. That's all. And I don't like that. But eventually they solve the mystery and get into the next spot, and they get Laureline in some cheesecake thing where she's actually infiltrating these traders who are pirates by posing as a hooker, and then stealing their info so that she can solve the crisis. So good stuff. Now, the next one is also a set in the past kind of weird thing. It starts off really cool where this horseback riding and all this stuff, and Valerian and Laureline. Valerian's off on a trip to find this crisis that's really erasing all of time and all that. And so he finds this creature that's going to help them, and then eventually comes back and joins them. Now this one, this is actually my least favorite story out of all of it because of the way it ends, and it gets into a blasphemous sort of state. Now it doesn't get there here, where it's still pretty entertaining at this point. You get some nice character interactions between Valerian and Laureline, which I like. But when they solve the crisis and figure out what's going on and what's going to just destroy all of their world and all that, it turns out like there's this hidden world out there where there's this group that's, quote, the Trinity, and they're kind of these bumbling idiots on this planet who are like really petty people who are just screwing with Earth because they can. And of course, they've been misinterpreted as gods under all this. Now it's an interesting sci-fi concept going into this world where these like gods control these towers that are messing with whole universes and things like that. But I didn't like the on the nose middle finger towards Christianity. That pissed me off quite a bit, and it kind of ruined the story for me. I'm not gonna lie. So that happens. Be aware that that's in there. The writing, the art is still top notch throughout all this stuff. I can't like everything about a story, but those sorts of things do throw you out of the book when you get some offensive content in there. So that's it. I didn't like this one as much. I got to call this a 6 out of 10 compared to the other volumes, but I will continue on, and there are 3 more volumes in the Valerian collection before this. I do love the whole sci-fi, the world building, the art, everything about it, other than the 2 elements I mentioned. But those are big deals for these particular stories. So that's what you get when you got to go all the way through things, and you might not like the ideologies of the artists. It is what it is. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.